Can't go into a park. I can't go to Disneyland as myself. I can't go out and walk down the street. There's crowds and bumper to bumper cars, and so I create my world behind my gates. Everything that I love is behind those gates.
In the heart of Gary, Indiana, a steel town built on sweat and survival, a young boy was born who would one day change the sound of the world. His name was Michael Joseph Jackson. Born on August 29th, 1958, the eighth of 10 children in a cramped two-bedroom house, Michael grew up surrounded by music, faith, and discipline. His father, Joe Jackson, worked long hours as a crane operator at the U.S. Steel plant. His mother, Catherine, a devout Jehovah's Witness, was gentle and loving, a piano player who believed her children's voices were a gift from God. But behind that tiny house on Jackson Street, the seeds of a global phenomenon and a lifetime of pain were taking root. Joe Jackson had once dreamed of being a musician, but those dreams had slipped away with time and responsibility. He turned his ambitions toward his sons, determined that what he could not become, they would. In the Jackson household, music wasn't just a pastime, it was survival. Evenings were spent rehearsing, days were filled with rhythm, harmony, and the ever-present shadow of their father's belt. We would take the furniture out of the living room and dance. We would have a songwriting competition while we washed the dishes. Music was our destiny. It was destiny. But it came at a cost. Michael's father was a strict man, some say cruel. He demanded perfection. He ruled with fear, not affection. Michael once told Oprah Winfrey he was so afraid of his father that he'd feel sick when he saw him. At just 6 years old, Michael joined his older brothers, Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, and Marlon, in a small band his father created. They called themselves the Jackson Brothers, soon to be the Jackson 5. They rehearsed for hours every day, performing wherever they could, school halls, bars, nightclubs, places no child should see. Michael was barely tall enough to reach the microphone, but his voice carried a power that no one could ignore. While other children played outside, Michael was singing under flashing lights, watching the world of adults unravel before his eyes. Childhood slipped away, replaced by rehearsals, discipline, and the desperate drive to be perfect. In 1965, the Jackson 5 won a local talent show. Michael stole the spotlight with a voice too powerful for his age, smooth, soulful, electrifying. The crowd rose to their feet, and from that moment, Joe Jackson saw not just a son, but an opportunity. By 1968, fate would bring them to Motown Records, the home of legends like Stevie Wonder and the Supremes. It was there, under the guidance of Berry Gordy and with Diana Ross introducing them to the world, that the Jackson 5 exploded onto the national stage. Their first single, I Want You Back, hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Then came ABC, The Love You Save, and I'll Be There. Each a masterpiece of innocence, rhythm, and joy, led by a boy whose voice seemed touched by something divine. But behind the glitter and the smiles, Michael was struggling. While the world adored the child star, he felt trapped in a role he didn't choose. On stage, he was the king of joy. Off stage, he was a lonely child, aching for the childhood he'd never known. My childhood was taken away from me. There were no Christmases, no birthdays. It wasn't a normal childhood. It was hard work, pain, and struggle. In those words lies the heart of Michael's tragedy. Fame had come too early, the price too high. He was adored by millions, yet understood by no one. Every cheer, every standing ovation only widened the gap between Michael and the boy he once was. The world saw a prodigy, but inside a boy was breaking, torn between his father's demands, his faith, and the need to simply be a child. By the early 1970s, the Jackson 5 had become America's brightest young stars. They sold out arenas. They had their own cartoon series. But the higher they climbed, the more Michael longed for escape, for independence, for control, for peace. He would soon discover that leaving the cage of his childhood would lead him into another one, far more dangerous, the golden cage of superstardom. This was only the beginning. The rise of the Jackson 5 and breaking free, 1971 to 1979. Soft Motown rhythms glide in under a montage of glittering 1970s stages, spinning vinyl, and flashing marquee lights. At barely 13, Michael had already become the shining center of a cultural storm. The Jackson Five were everywhere, on radio, on television, in living rooms across America. Their smiles were polished, their harmonies perfect, their moves impossibly tight. Behind each step was exhaustion, behind each grin, the weight of expectation. The crowd screamed his name, but Michael's mind was elsewhere, in a quiet place where he could finally be alone, away from the noise, away from his father's shadow. He began to dream of something bigger than the family band, something that would let him write, create, and breathe on his own terms. When the spotlights dimmed after another sold-out show, the brothers argued. The older ones wanted control over their music. Motown refused. The label that had made them famous owned everything. Their masters, their direction, even their name. In 1976, the family took a leap of faith, leaving Motown for Epic Records. They would no longer be the Jackson Five, they became the Jacksons. Jermaine stayed behind. Randy stepped in. The dream, once fueled by their father's iron will, was now guided by Michael's quiet ambition. Tour buses rumbled across continents. 6 albums in 8 years. Audiences in the millions. But something inside him was shifting. On stage, Michael still danced like lightning. Each spin precise, each shout electric. Off stage, he buried himself in notebooks of melodies, fragments of lyrics, sketches of ideas no one had heard yet. In 1977, Broadway came calling. The Wiz, an all-black adaptation of The Wizard of Oz, offered Michael his first real escape. Playing the Scarecrow, he found a kind of freedom he'd never known. Among the cast and crew, he met a man who would change his destiny, producer Quincy Jones. On set, Quincy saw beyond the shy young singer in heavy makeup. He saw a restless artist ready to create something entirely new. The film flopped at the box office, but its true purpose had already been served. A partnership was born, one that would redefine popular music. When the cameras stopped rolling, Michael stayed in New York, alone. For the first time, no brothers, no father, no rules. Just endless hours in front of a mirror. Dancing, studying, perfecting. Every move had to mean something. Every breath had to tell a story. He was changing, not just as a performer, as a man. Then came Off the Wall, 1979. A shimmering blend of funk, pop, and soul. A sound that could only belong to him. The first notes of Don't Stop Till You Get Enough exploded through radios like sunlight. Critics called it a revelation. Fans called it freedom. For Michael, it was a beginning. At last, his own voice, untouched by others. But even success carried its shadows. During rehearsal for a dance program, a fall broke his nose. The surgery that followed repaired his breathing, but opened a door he would never quite close again. A nose reshaped for practicality soon became a subject of obsession for the world. He dismissed the rumors with quiet dignity. "Just my nose," he said. "It helped me breathe so I can hit higher notes." Yet something in him had changed. Beneath the perfection, a storm was gathering, of scrutiny, of curiosity, of pain disguised as art. Awards poured in. 3 American Music Awards, a Grammy for Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. But Michael looked beyond the trophies. He wanted transcendence. He wanted to make music that would stop time. The world was listening, but Michael Jackson was only getting started. The next chapter would shatter every record, every expectation, and every boundary of fame itself. The lights dim. A heartbeat begins. Slow, steady, haunting. The screen fades to black, and a single word appears in red. Thriller. Thriller. The Man Behind the Mask, 1982 to 1990. A heartbeat, darkness, then a single spotlight. 1982. Michael Jackson stands on the edge of history. He and producer Quincy Jones craft an album that will rewrite music itself. Thriller. It isn't just a record, it's a revolution. Each song feels alive. Billie Jean, Beat It, Thriller, a fusion of rhythm and imagination. Within weeks, the world can't stop moving to his beat. Music videos are no longer just promotions. They're cinema. When Michael steps into that red jacket, morphing into a werewolf under neon light, he doesn't just perform, he invents a new language of art. The Thriller video becomes a global event. MTV plays it on repeat. Kids everywhere learn the dance. Michael becomes more than famous. He becomes myth. Then comes Motown 25. He walks out in black sequins, fedora low, one white glove catching the light. The beat drops. Billie Jean. He slides backward across the stage. The crowd screams. The moonwalk. 5 seconds that change pop culture forever. From that moment, Michael isn't just the world's biggest star. He is pop. Every move, every sound, every breath becomes history. Fame brings fortune and pressure. Endorsement deals flood in. Pepsi signs him for a record $5 million. But during a 1984 shoot, sparks ignite his hair. Michael's scalp burns. He doesn't scream. He just finishes the scene, then collapses. He later donates his settlement to the hospital that treated him. Even his pain, he turns into kindness. But behind the perfection, something begins to crack. The media obsesses over his face. The cameras chase him endlessly. He is everywhere, yet nowhere safe. By 1985, Michael redirects his spotlight toward humanity. Alongside Lionel Richie, he writes We Are the World, uniting artists across genres and raising millions for famine relief. It's his heart speaking, the boy from Gary, Indiana, trying to heal the world through song. Still, whispers grow louder. His skin, once brown, grows pale. People accuse him of bleaching, of rejecting his roots. The truth is simpler and sadder. He's diagnosed with vitiligo and lupus, illnesses that destroy pigment and make sunlight unbearable. The man who lit up the stage can barely stand beneath the sun. He covers his skin with gloves and jackets, not vanity, but survival. I have a disorder that destroys pigmentation, he explained softly. It's something I can't help. But when people make up stories, it hurts. He channels that pain into creation. In 1987, he releases Bad, his answer to everything. 5 number. 1 singles, bold imagery, and a sharper edge. The shy child becomes a defiant icon, dressed in black leather and confidence. I look at the man in the mirror, he says. If you want to make the world a better place, start with yourself. The world listens. The Bad World Tour smashes records. Wembley, Tokyo, New York. 500,000 fans watch him night after night, crying, fainting, reaching for a glimpse. Yet even in front of thousands, Michael feels utterly alone. Every headline twists his image further. Wacko Jacko, they call him. He hides behind masks, behind gates, behind silence. So he builds his refuge, Neverland, a paradise carved into 2,700 acres of California green. There's a Ferris wheel, a zoo, a movie theater, trains that loop through fields. It's not a mansion, it's a dream. The childhood he never had, finally made real. There he surrounds himself with laughter, animals, and children. He invites sick kids, families, charities. He wants to see joy, to feel innocence again. But fame doesn't let you rest. Every act of kindness becomes a rumor. Every rumor becomes a weapon. And Michael retreats deeper into the fantasy he's built. He releases his autobiography, Moonwalk, finally speaking of his pain, his father's cruelty, his surgeries, his loneliness. But instead of understanding, the world dissects him further. People stop hearing the music. They just stare at the mask. Still, the art never stops. He films Moonwalker and the 3D short Captain EO with George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola. Proof that his creativity has no limits. Every beat, every move, every video, a declaration that he's still here, still creating, still alive. By 1990, Michael Jackson has everything a human being could dream of: power, beauty, wealth, and worship. But behind the glitter, a quiet truth lingers. The boy who became the king of pop never stopped longing for the one thing money could never buy: peace. In the silence of Neverland, he walks alone under moonlight, his voice soft, almost a whisper. "I'm never totally satisfied," he once said. "I always wish the world could be a better place." That's what I try to do with my music. To bring joy, to bring peace. The camera fades out. Children's laughter echoes over the soft notes of a piano. The light dims on Neverland. Ahead lies a new decade, one that will test the king of pop like never before. His music made him immortal. But fame would demand its price. Neverland and the Fall of the King, 1991 to 2005. A soft piano echoes through the gates of Neverland. For a moment, Michael seems at peace, surrounded by laughter, animals, and innocence. But outside those gates, the world is changing, and the world never stops watching. He releases dangerous, bold, urgent, and electric. Black or white, remember the time. Heal the world. Songs that speak of unity, love, and redemption. His videos become short films, each a visual masterpiece. He breaks barriers again, reminding the world that art still beats stronger than rumor. But the whispers keep coming. His skin, his home, his friends. Every headline twists the truth a little further. He starts wearing masks, sunglasses, military jackets, armor against a world obsessed with what he looks like instead of who he is. Then in 1993, the storm arrives. A single accusation, the unthinkable, shatters the illusion of safety. For the first time, the public turns its gaze not toward his music, but toward his private life. Reporters camp outside Neverland. Cameras follow his every move. In the court of public opinion, innocence no longer matters. Michael denies everything. His voice cracks with pain as he faces the cameras. I would never harm a child. It's not who I am. It's not what I am. The case ends in a settlement, not an admission, but exhaustion. The weight of accusation breaks him in ways the world can't see. Friends say he becomes quieter, paranoid, afraid of sleep. He seeks refuge in his art again. In 1995, history arrives, part memoir, part war cry. It's Michael fighting back through music. Songs like They Don't Care About Us and Stranger in Moscow aren't pop. They're pain set to rhythm. On tour, he still dazzles, but behind the lights, he is fragile, haunted by a world that no longer feels safe. Neverland grows quieter. The laughter fades, its rides stand still, its gates locked more often than open. Inside, Michael surrounds himself with memories, a boy forever chasing the childhood he lost. By 2001, he returns with Invincible. The album is ambitious, but the industry has changed. Younger stars dominate the charts he once owned. The press mocks him relentlessly. Every public appearance sparks another rumor, another headline, another cut. Then 2003, another accusation. This time it goes to trial. The images of Michael in handcuffs shake the world. Once the brightest star on earth, he now looks small, frail, and terrified. The trial lasts 2 years. Every detail of his life is exposed. His finances, his habits, his heart. When the verdict finally comes, not guilty on all counts. There's no celebration, just relief, just silence. But the damage is done. Michael leaves Neverland soon after. He calls it haunted. He moves between countries, Bahrain, Ireland, Dubai, searching for somewhere to start again. For the first time since childhood, the king of pop disappears from the world stage. No crowds, no cameras, only echoes of a man who once believed music could save him. As the credits of his career roll silently, one truth remains clear. Michael Jackson was a man of extraordinary light and a life lived under the darkest shadow of fame. His story was never just about music. It was about the cost of being loved by everyone and understood by no one. The camera fades to black. A heartbeat returns. A soft voice whispers from the archives. Lies run sprints, but the truth runs marathons. He came into this world with rhythm in his heart and left it echoing in ours. Michael Jackson's story is not just one of music or fame or tragedy. It's the story of a soul that felt everything too deeply: joy, love, pain, and the unbearable weight of the world's gaze. His songs still play in every corner of the planet. They remind us to dance, to care, to look at the man in the mirror and make a change. He may have been a victim of fame, but through it all, he became a voice for every dreamer who ever felt misunderstood. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe, Leave a comment and share your favorite Michael Jackson memory below. Your voice keeps his legacy alive.